Hello everyone, Ben Sims from Fine Sim here once again, joined by Hannah, Sam and Gina, and we just got watching, is it Godzilla vs Kong? Or Kong vs Godzilla? Godzilla vs Kong. Okay, still got my TV there.
Do you know the title of the film?
Yeah, we're really informed, as you can say. We're very
Yes.
cut out to review this film. So again, just done watching it. I wasn't really hyped for this because I didn't see the last Kong film, Kong Skull Island I think it was called.
Yeah.
But always had a weird kind of fascination with the Godzilla franchise. So I watched the two before this, which were fine. And then this as well, I thought was fine. I don't know what you guys think of it.
It's pretty dumb.
It's certainly
Pretty
pretty
dumb
dumb.
film.
No, they steered into the ridiculous skid that is Godzilla.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I don't want to do spoilers yet, but I enjoyed where it went. I'm glad they turned the sci-fi up to 11 and just kind of went for it.
It had
Yes.
a mad plot, didn't
It did. Like that was the first I saw one King Kong film, which was the 2005
Peter Jackson
one. Yeah, the Peter Jackson one. I'd never seen the Godzilla film before, so this was the first one for me. Probably not the best one to start with because it does go goes up to 11.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just a little bit too bonkers. Like it was just a bit, but in a way, it was weird because it was bonkers, but I was also kind of bored because I wasn't that invested in how crazy it was. So it's just like one thing would happen and then another and then another, and I was just not particularly bothered.
bunch of weird flashing lights for 2 hours.
Kinda, yeah. There were some really beautiful shots in it that I thought were, visually it was quite nice, but I was kind of checked out for most of the film, to be honest.
Well, when did you check out?
Oh god.
The opening
When did I
shot,
check
just
in?
like-
I don't know. I think maybe more so around the scenes involving the two teen characters, Millie Bobby Brown and her friend.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't. Again, if I'd seen the last film that she was in and had a bit of background information, I probably would have cared more. But I didn't care.
Fair enough. I think with all these big monster movies, the human characters are always the weakest and the most uninteresting. That's been like a staple since the Toho Japanese Godzilla films, like from the 50s till now, where the plots are so ludicrous and the characters so forgettable. But it's all kind of set up to watch two big monsters fighting, so it's always going to be balmy and ridiculous, like how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And if you're not on that train, if you're not on that ride, then you're just going to be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like, this is stupid as shit.
Yeah, kinda. I mean, was this the first Godzilla film you'd watched, or have you seen other ones?
No, we watched the King Kong Skull Island and the Godzilla.
Yeah.
King Kong was definitely better than both of the Godzilla films.
Oh, really?
Okay. Well,
Really?
I think so.
Why would you think that?
Don't know. I feel like King Kong's more the character that you'd like connect with than Godzilla, whereas Godzilla's just kind of like.
Yeah, Kong's
Yeah.
always kind of that human, compassionate element that
Yeah.
Godzilla
Yeah.
always hasn't, so I guess in that makes sense.
It's one of them where I feel like in these films they kind of tell you that Godzilla's for the humans, but he doesn't kind of show it very much.
Yeah. And I think it's wise for the film to basically, for most of it, depict King Kong as the babyface, which means good guy in non-wrestling terms.
Wrestling.
Professional wrestling. And Godzilla's the heel, which means bad guy. Because King Kong has always got a kind of sympathy kind of aura to him. That is like it's wise to utilise him as the good guy. And it's nice to see Godzilla, who, the original incarnation of him back in the mid-50s Japanese film is this unstoppable vessel of destruction, which the film kind of had that approach in, which I kind of liked. But I don't know, there's not really much to say, because if you enjoy the big monsters fighting, then I think you got your money's worth, especially in the last kind of act where it's just non-stop, just buildings blowing up.
No,
and
definitely.
throwing
They
people around.
definitely went for it in this one. Like in the first Godzilla, they kept kind of going, there's a little bit of a mess, but you haven't really seen Godzilla, you've kind of seen some of it, isn't it?
No,
a
you
little bit of
you
mess.
see
And then,
Godzilla.
and it's like the first 5 minutes, he's like ripping through a city or whatever, like,
Yeah.
doing his thing,
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of action between the two of them pretty early on, and I can imagine if you're someone who went into the film purely for that, I can't imagine you'd be disappointed.
Yeah.
But I think if you kind of go in more as a casual viewer, where you kind of like, so what's the story? What's the world building? It's like,
No, there is.
there is world building definitely, but I think
Build a world within a world.
it does. But I think it just is so kind of I don't know. I guess it doesn't build a foundation
No,
in that film. You
No,
kind of have to know what's going on.
it's one of them where the foundation for me, I would say, is the same in like every single film.
Oh,
Every
okay.
single film they kind of start from well, I haven't seen the second Godzilla, to be fair. We didn't get have time for that one in the end, but in Kong Skull Island, this and the first Godzilla, it's always seemingly you've got some crackpot scientist or whatever who kind of knows what's going on. In this one, it wasn't a scientist; it was like a, your blogger dude. But like in the first Godzilla, it was like Bryan Cranston who was like, I know something else is going on.
Yeah.
You're hiding something from me.
Yeah.
And then in Kong Skull Island, you had, I can't remember the character's name, but is it John C. Reilly who plays him? I guess.
I know he's in it. So.
Yeah. So he's kind of the crackpot guy who was like, I was attacked by a monster, and he said I wasn't, but I was. And then he kind of like just goes, and in this it was. Again, I don't know his name.
Brian Tyree again.
Yeah.
Paperboy from Atlanta.
Yeah, so I feel like in every single, and again, I don't know, you might have to confirm for me, in the second Godzilla, is there some scientist or some guy running around going, there's a conspiracy and I must find out what's going on?
I've literally forgot everything from the last Godzilla film. I watched it on my own in the cinema because I was really bored, and I watched it and go, and then as soon as I was back at the house, I was just like, what happened at that? I have these vague visuals of monsters fighting, but there must have, throughout all these films, there's always a crazy scientist guy like shaking people by the shoulders.
Yeah.
No, it's coming! Whoa!
Yeah, and it's funny the kind of conspiracy they have to kind of get through, because obviously in the first one it's just like you're hiding them, in like the first two, it's like you're hiding the monsters. The monsters are somewhere and you're hiding them, but in this one obviously they can't hide the monsters. So it's like we've got to hide something else. And obviously we don't want to get into spoilers, and don't forget into spoilers, there is something else.
There is something hidden.
Yeah.
We'll get into spoilers because you have to kind of go through the plot, because the plot is absolutely ludicrous, but I don't want to spoil anything for... In a way, I kind of like to how out there and ludicrous the actual plot was and where it went. But and you were slacking off Millie Bobby Brown throughout this film, weren't you?
No, I was not. I just said, I made one comment, which is that I can see why in Stranger Things she doesn't talk. Which is really, I know it's really hard. Sorry, I said it to be
Did you not like her
sassy and bitchy.
performance? No?
Not really.
Oh.
But she didn't have a lot of character.
Yeah.
I don't think that was necessarily her fault. I think the dialogue she was given wasn't great.
Some of the dialogue in this film was
all of the
pretty
dialogue was
rough.
really bad. There was nothing wrong with any of the actors per se. They all did a grand job.
I enjoyed Paperboy's character.
Yeah, I did. I liked him as well, but again, he was given some really dud lines. There were some lines that he said that were, that he delivered well and were funny, but then there were some that he really tried with that, just weren't funny.
What was the line near the end that we both rolled our eyes at? I forgot what it was.
There was a point where Kong and Godzilla have had their second battle, and someone, as one of the scientists on the team or whatever, goes, "Looks like Kong won round 2 or something like that," and then we both just looked at each other for a second because no.
That's something like your
bad.
basic mate would say in the cinema, like, looks like Kong won round 2.
I just know that if this was in the cinemas, somewhere in a cinema, someone would have cheered at that.
That's who it's for. I think because that's what I kind of feel bad for this film in a way as well, because I feel like this is a bit of a cinema experience. I feel like it'd be a lot grandiose.
Yeah.
Especially if it was like on IMAX or something, just like massive monsters fighting in your
like
face.
the visuals, the visual special effects and sound mixing were all on point. Like it looked really grand in some of the epic kind of panoramic shots that it had, especially the first little fight they have on the battleship. That's how huge, wide. The sunset's like behind him, I just see Kong deliver like a right hand. It's like, oh, this has some impact,
Yeah.
I think most of the monster scenes were done like quite well. And again, if you're that audience that just wants to see big titans fight, I find it hard to not enjoy it. I thought there might be a bit too much human stories, like. And that when the fighting would cut to humans, I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake, just we're here now.
It's one of them though where it's just like you've got to have the humans steering the monsters.
Yeah,
you can't do that's the issues, because they had so many monsters and so many like little storylines to kind of fill in. They had to kind of go, well, we've got to have someone doing this, then we've got to have someone going to the centre of the air, and then we've got to have, so I've got to think of all these science teams to flesh out all these plot lines for all these monsters that they're just kind of throwing at you all at once.
Yeah, definitely.
You do need humans to kind of build that narrative bridgestone, I guess.
I was going to say, should someone kind of go through what the plot of the film was? So that
Are we doing it? Sort of going.
Oh, we're going spoilers already.
I mean, are we ready to spoil?
Okay, if we're ready to spoil, then we're going to turn out the plot. If we're talking about the plot, I'm going to drink, because this plot is... Go on, Hannah, I want you to describe the plot to me.
I don't know what happened,
And
Ben.
try and make sense of it.
Sam, can you explain the plot?
Go on, Samuel.
I can take a crack.
Yeah, go
Yes,
on.
please.
Well, because there's a lot of things that I feel like they kind of just throw at you as like little exposition lines, which you kind of like. Again, if you haven't seen Kong, there's bits where they. So, for example, in Kong, he's on an island by himself. He's on Skull Island by himself, which is surrounded by a perpetual storm. So that's why no one can get there. It's really hard to get there. Only people who have ever seen when we get there are people who crash there, and they kind of like. And obviously, it opens up and he's in a habitat. He's not on his island anymore. So it's just like a, how did he get here? When did this happen? When did the technology to build this enclosure happen and all this? And they just have throwaway lines like, well, when the storm finally engulfed the island, and then so there's bits like that I feel like you would miss. But I guess the overall story is they've got Kong. They're trying to keep him peacefully contained in a place. Godzilla's now attacking humans, but no one seems to know why. They think he's just turned on humanity, because seemingly in the past he's fought monsters for humanity. He's just kind of killed the monsters and then left and just gone off to do whatever he wants. But now he's attacking and we don't know why. You got a conspiracy guy who's trying to find out why, because he knows there's someone. He's just let me in. He's doing that. And then you've got the science team who are trying to figure out where all the monsters come from, which is another running thing in the exposition of the beginning of everyone.
It's a scene where a creepy guy with a beard and funky hair goes to some basement dwelling scientist, right, and goes, right, there's a hollow earth. There's an earth within the earth.
You interrupted the explanation of the plot.
Oh, sorry. you are doing something.
No.
But I just want to kind of enforce how absurd this is. So establish the hollow earth theory, which is like a long century-old conspiracy that there's an earth within the centre of the earth, and it's all kind of inverted. Like we're talking about how the Nazis in real life try to find the hollow earth. And they need to go there because Kong needs to find an energy source.
They need to find an energy source
that powers his big axe.
Well, again, this I feel like another issue with this film is they just keep throwing little like sci-fi things at you and not really explaining it, but kind of just expecting you to just go along with it.
Like the hollow earth.
So like the whole hollow earth thing, they're just like it, and they mention it in each one, and it kind of gets more ridiculous with each film. They kind of go, well, there's big chasms in the earth that house these giant titans, and the titans sometimes get out, and then it's progressed to this film where it's like it's not just holes in the earth, there's an entire earth in the earth, which inexplicably has a sun, which I can't get over, because it's inside the earth, and there is clearly some sort of sun there, some sort of light source they never explain.
They describe it as some kind of perfect ecosystem.
Yeah, like an enclosed.
They establish like hills in the sky because it is inverted.
Well,
it's like, where's light coming from?
It's again, it's weird because I would assume that the outer crust has a gravity field and the inner earth has a gravity field, because Kong crosses it at one point, doesn't he? He gets to the top of the mountain and then he jumps and he floats and he joins onto the other earth. So like, for some reason there's a power source down there, and when I was watching it in the first bit and they were talking about the power source, I thought they were talking about some sort of thing that produces the monsters. They think there's something in the inner earth, a power source of some kind that creates these titans. That's what I took it as. And then it seemingly becomes about the Godzilla's beam, his nuke breath. So, because when he picks up his big monkey, monkey axe thing, and the thing on the floor shines, it's in the shape of Godzilla and it's all blue. So that's what the power source is that they're looking for, which powers the other monster that you get. I don't know if we're doing spoilers yet.
We're all in.
I was going to say if we're all in. So the Mecha Godzilla that they find out is being built that seemingly is the new power source for it that causes it to go AWOL. So there's a whole stories within stories, but
so
it's a bit mental.
Could they access the hollow earth before Kong went there? Because they build big tubes to the hollow earth.
So this is another little sci-fi thing that they don't fully explain and just expect you to kind of go along with, is that they suggest that when you enter this hollow earth, because the gravity shift is so crazy, normal conventional aircraft would just get crushed. So the basement dwelling scientists that they run into? So they go, and the guy kind of mentions his brother. His brother tried to go to the centre of the earth, but when he passed the gravity field, he just got crushed. But then they kind of casually mention that they've got a ship that can do it, that has anti-gravity engines, which is like, a level of science which is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like if someone cracks anti-gravity, it would change everything.
Yeah.
Like it would change the way we run the planet, and they're just like, yeah, we've got like 3
Just
ships,
really
anti-gravity
casually.
engines. We're gonna go to the centre of the Earth with them. We're not gonna go to other planets. We're not gonna leave Earth with our amazing anti-gravity engines and go build a planet somewhere
Maybe
else,
even
away
deeper
from all
in.
these Titans. We're gonna go closer to the Titans with our Titan, who's kind of a friend because of a little girl whose parents again, it's just stuff like where they explain the little girl comes from. It's just like a little throwaway line. Oh, her parents lived on the island, but then when the island got destroyed, Kong saved her. How did he save her?
So
Where did he go? So there's bits like that where they just kind of throw a line at you, and it's like if you weren't paying attention, then it just doesn't. You've lost it.
I've watched the film and I'm actually so confused about listening to that again.
And that reveal wasn't even a reveal until it was a reveal. Where in the opening scene, this little girl is communicating to Kong through sign language in his little kind of, circular prison thing. And it's like, okay, this is what the scientists use to communicate to Kong then. And then it's turned out that they didn't know that she was doing sign language to him and vice versa.
Well, they knew she was doing sign language to him, but they didn't know that Kong was, doing sign language with this little girl, which is ridiculous because he's a massive fuck off machine.
And there's
hands are
cameras everywhere in the dome. It's just how you've missed that. It's like, wait a minute.
And then somehow it's a surprise when the little girl signs to her caretaker, who's a scientist, played by Rebecca Hall. And it's like, yeah, Kong told me how he feels, and Rebecca Hall is stunned by this fact. She has no idea.
She's been studying him for years.
She's like,
no idea. Like,
wow.
Lazy at her job.
Yeah.
It's not watching.
Yeah. Every time she turns, we like to see him. We like to sketch a little Britain. Every time she turns around, he's like doing all this. Yeah, so I'm just eating bananas.
Yeah. So that's at the start of the film. Basically, this team of scientists want Kong to lead them to Hollow Earth.
Yeah, they know how to get there. Yeah, it's Hollow Earth. They know how to get there. They have the ships to get there, but once they get there, they were kind of like, well, we've got this Titan Kong, who is either from there or his family is from there. Like, because they don't ever really explain how old any of these are. Like, I'm pretty sure at one point they mentioned that Godzilla is possibly like millions of years old.
Yeah. And
it's one of them where they have another throwaway line in Kong where a guy who's been trapped on the island for years kind of goes, oh, he's not done growing yet, he's still young. But it's just like how young is a young Titan? So we don't know if Kong used to live in there, because when he's there he seems to know where he's going, and he seems to know about things and stuff, so it's just like
which is weird, because when they bring Kong to this entrance, which takes them a while, they try to get him there by sea, but then they're attacked by Godzilla, and then they have to resort to going by helicopter instead. But when they get there, Kong has no idea what's going on. He communicates to this little girl, who I think is called Gia, that he's like confused or nervous, and she has to tell him, your family could be in there, and then he runs in. But as soon as he gets there, he seems to know what's going on. I found it really confusing, where it's like he either does know this or he doesn't, and I don't know which it is.
Yeah.
And this is making me more confused.
I would have assumed that at that point he didn't know that was. I'm gonna explain this in my own mind.
A lot of assuming.
This is what I mean. It's one of the films where it's like, I'm assuming they took him there. He was just like, well, this isn't anything, because the idea was that there was another hole on Skull Island where he came from, which is why there was monsters and stuff there. So it could be one of them where he came out at Skull Island and his family came out at Skull Island. Obviously he's never seen snow before, then they moved his habitat, and that's why he kind of picks up the snow. I think he's like, what the hell is this? And he doesn't know where he is, and then the girl has to say like, your home is in there, and he's kind of like, is it?
Okay. No, that makes sense.
So and then because obviously he's a Titan or whatever, they take him in there to kind of essentially be like a bodyguard, and which he does in like the first bit when they get there. He takes out those two things, even though I swear Kong just keeps losing fights in this film.
Yeah, he's pretty low.
He gets his arse beat every single time.
This is like one. He knocks out Godzilla like one time, and that's only because he found his like magical like axe or whatever underground.
That weird just broken axe that happened. I don't know.
Which when he walked, like, I liked how the Hollow world was presented. It looked cool, but he walks into this huge temple, and then this axe is just like on the floor. So it's like, oh yeah. And that turns out to be like an all-powerful weapon. You'd think it would be in some like mountain crust or this
is another throwaway line that I'm gonna explain to you, because I'm gonna assume, as the film wants me to, what's going on. So
Take a
at
guess.
one point they mention that there's a possibility that Kong's people and Godzilla's like people, or whatever, they had a war at one point. And when they go into the temple,
What?
he kind of pulls it out. Again, these are like lines that they just kind of throw at you that if you miss, like, and again, I might have misheard it as well. But it kind of seemed to me that they were suggesting that there was, because again in this they're constantly going on about who's the apex predator. There's always a new titan that's fighting for like supremacy of the earth. So it's like at one point there was a big war between like the Godzillas and the Kongs, because when he goes in there it's kind of embedded in a skull, and that's kind of got like a big rib cage around it. So I took that to be, well, this was like a final battle between like the Kongs and the Godzillas. The Kongs got out to Skull Island and Godzilla got out to somewhere else, and they kind of lived peacefully and kind of killed their own like little ecosystems and kind of took care of the little ecosystems. Okay. But it's kind of one of those things where it's weird, because obviously that implies that Kong's people ever got to the point where they were using tools and stuff, which implies that they were quite intelligent, because they managed to form some sort of metal that could absorb Godzilla's nuclear breath. So that's and they had like and there's like points where they're leaving the temple. There's a big statue of a monkey like collapsing. It's like, okay,
so are they grafting?
So it's like
so
is this like Kong's people? Are they able to use tools? They're able to craft statues. They're like, how clever? And Kong can do sign language. So it's just like how clever were these?
Yeah.
How clever were these Kong? Like I'm really interested.
Not really clever though. So
It's
like,
true.
It's based on a gorilla and it's just a huge gorilla. Then.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, but I'd just say, like, if you didn't give all of this context, I would have had no idea.
But this is
that.
what I don't even know. If that's the thing. I don't even know if I'm right. I'm just kind of going offline to go, well, that must mean this, surely.
Like, honestly, because while that's going on, just talking about a bit more about the plot. So whilst that's happening, while they're trying to get Kong to be their sort of bodyguard through this hollow inverted Earth, Godzilla is attacking people around the world. I think mostly in Hong Kong. And there's also there's a podcaster in America who works for Apex Industries.
Yeah.
He's like undercover there.
Who's undercover, who's trying to expose that they're hiding something, which we alluded to before. He is then found by Millie Bobby Brown and her mate. They go and find him and they decide to do a bit of, Scooby-Dooing. And they end up mistakenly getting to Hong Kong through a shuttle, okay? And they realise that Apex Industries are creating their own kind of, what was it called? It's a mecha...
It's Mecha Godzilla.
Mecha Godzilla, which is...
Mecha?
A robot Godzilla.
Mecha Godzilla.
Yes, which is a big, which is basically a big robotic Godzilla with the intent of it killing the real Godzilla and protecting humanity from the Titans. That's the conspiracy, that's what they've been hiding, and that's what Brian Tyree Henry's character's been trying to prove. Yeah. So that's what we're going between until the two, they meet at points in the plot, and then they work together to defeat the robotic Godzilla.
So there's a lot of little storylines. Yeah. There's a whole Godzilla's searching for something, which turns out to be Mecha Godzilla. They're carting King Kong around to try and either beat Godzilla or take them to the centre of the earth to find a power source that will help them beat Godzilla. Yeah. And then you've got the evil scientist. It's kind of evil scientist who, in a way, isn't that evil. I mean, Godzilla's people kind of go, well, he fights the monsters and then he leaves. He never specifically attacks humanity. But it's like, it would still be nice to have maybe a failsafe just in case he does. But I'm assuming again that the monster heads that they used, Godzilla could sense that they were using them and was just like, well, that just sounds like another monster to me, so I'm just going to attack you. Yeah. And that's where that came from. But that was another, lots of inexplicable sci-fi things. Like you say, when they ended up from America to Hong Kong.
In a matter of like hours,
an hour? It implies it's like a system of travel, which is just like, if we discovered that, it would again change the world. It's like a magnet system that fires you at like hundreds of miles. It's like a hyperloop. It's like essentially they've just kind of done a hyperloop from like San Francisco or wherever they were to Japan, and they've just got it underground and like why are you selling this for evacuation plans? Why isn't this in every you know what I mean? Like, these things should be everywhere. I do
get that.
But they could get
out. And stuff like that. And it's the same thing. But that was another thing, was the power source that they have underground was another thing I feel like we were forced to accept, was how did they send it from the centre of the earth to the mecha thing? They had that little robot that just kind of rolled out and like seemed to download the power and like send it to them. And I was kind of sitting there going, right, is it analysing the power source, sending it to them so they can make their own version, or is it literally transmitting the power source to them? Because that's what it was. I was just kind of like, so it to me, I was like, well, it's transferring the power to them. How's it doing that without cables? How is it transferring enough to power like a Godzilla that in some shots looked bigger than the biological Godzilla, and it was just kind of like and it was just like how did you get that power there, and that kind of like there's little things like that, and when they revived, so there's the point when King Kong's knocked out, he's about to die, and they kind of defib him, and again like he's in the ship, sets up the thing to blow, sets up the anti-gravs to blow and shock King Kong back to life, but then the ship is on King Kong's chest and he's lying down. But it cuts from him in the ship to him running away from the ship at full pelt, and it's like, but even King Kong lying down is surely, that's like a skyscraper right there. And how have you got off? Have you slid off? Have you jumped off? Is there a ladder?
Yeah.
Like, there's just loads of little things like that they're just kind of like forcing you to just kind of go, oh, you got off the ship.
Was it
explaining
explained how Godzilla knew shooting his atomic breath in the middle of a Hong Kong city also happened to be King Kong's temple? And he shoots through the hollow earth into King Kong.
So
did Godzilla know?
I don't know.
Where he was?
I'm gonna assume that he's
just...
got some kind of sixth sense where he can detect where this other Titan is, because that's what happened when they were at sea.
Yeah, true.
And Godzilla attacks the boat, the fleet of ships that are transporting King Kong, and they kind of make reference that as soon as we start moving, he's gonna know that Godzilla is gonna come back and attack Kong again, and that he found us because these are his waters and he can sense when Kong is there. I think it's just because the way you were explaining it before about how all this technology is so ridiculously insane, it would change everything. I think because the world of King Kong and Godzilla is such a heightened reality, it's so ridiculous, but obviously all the people in this world are used to these monsters turning up and just causing chaos. It's just not done correctly. Like the situation and the story is so ridiculous, but the world doesn't quite match up to it. Like if the world was done in such a way that the technology that they're using was kind of more the norm, and and it was a much more advanced kind of world, I feel like it would have made a little bit more sense. But because you're basically looking at, this is like our reality if there were some monsters in it, everything else is just so ridiculous. It just doesn't. I don't know. Maybe
no, I do know what you mean. Like if they had it like this is a slightly future Tokyo, there were flying cars with the anti-grav things, and like there were they had those things where it just looked like a kind of normal 2000s world. But every now and again they just kind of launch this incredible technology at you. It's like. And it's one of them where you could always go down the route of, it's secret government technology that no one's allowed to know about.
Which they kind of did.
Yeah, but it's, I feel like...
It's not very secretive when you have entire tubes.
It's
just like someone gone off like a heist, like, the fuck's that?
Yeah.
And it will blow up.
And how have they constructed it with these giant behemoths constantly just just destroying everything? Like, how have you had the time to build, why are we not spending billions rebuilding New York after it's been decimated?
Exactly.
It's just like, no, we're going to build this massive hyperloop to just have. We're only going to use to transport eggs or something.
So, final thoughts. I think I'd probably give it around a 5 and 6. The actual monster scenes themselves had a good grandiosity and scale to them that I enjoyed, especially some of the camera movements that the director, I'm not too sure I directed it, but they're quite unique. It had a lot of kind of vertical low angle shots that would suddenly jump up to high angle shots that are pretty cool. And again, the final battle of Hong Kong, where it was all illuminated by the skyscrapers and you have just the way it was almost neon lit, was very, very pretty. I think what gets in the way of it is the uninteresting human characters and the absolutely bonkers, nonsensical plot that we're all the way through the review just assuming. I think that's what they mean. I think that's what they were trying to get at. But I can't say I was never bored. I mean, it felt quite fast, shorter than it was. I think it was 2 hours. I didn't feel its length to me. But it's not something I'll remember probably in the next few weeks. It's like, it's a fine popcorn film, I think.
I'd probably give it closer to a 4, I think.
Okay,
Like a 4 out of 10. I was pretty bored throughout most of it. I think its strengths were its visuals. I think there were some really beautiful shots, and the effects were very good. I think it's kind of, its downside was really that it wasted a good cast. you know, you've got Rebecca Hall, who's a very good actor. You've got Brian Tyree Henry, who's a really good actor. Millie Bobby Brown as well is a good actor. I know what I said earlier, but she's a good actor. You know, you've got these good actors who just were given really crap, boring dialogue with little character development. The little girl in it who played Gia, whose name I'm not sure of, but she was great. She didn't have any dialogue, and she was really expressive and really, you know, kind of heartwarming, but she kind of had the most important role. Everyone else was really bland and dull. Yeah, it was the plot was bizarre. The jokes weren't funny. I just didn't. It just didn't do anything for me. No, just no. No. I have nothing else to say.
Not your tin of lager.
No, not my tin of lager.
Fair enough.
I'd say a solid 6. Like you said, the visuals were really good. I don't think anyone's going into this expecting it to be like an amazing kind of story thing. So I feel like I went in and got what I wanted. But at the same time, yeah, I didn't like how much I had to assume and how much I felt like I was assuming. And like, it's one of them where maybe if they'd done it in 2 films or had like, if they were brave enough to like maybe make it longer and explain things slightly more, but I feel like they had to kind of go, this is the way things are and that's it. And I was just kind of, oh fine, whatever, we'll get to the monster fight and that'll be fine. But yeah, I'd say a solid 6, and I'd say it's almost kind of brave in a way for the stories that they've gone for, because they've just kind of gone, we're just going to go for it. Because it's not like a thing where they've kind of gone, oh, we'll have like a little Godzilla Kong fight and then they'll draw and then we'll just leave it there. They've kind of gone like, no, we'll have this and then we'll have like Mecha Godzilla and then we'll like, they just feel like some crazy pitch where some bloke's just like little string everywhere and a tie down it, just going, he's gonna go there, and then we're gonna go. And it was like,
just doing like a coat off the desk.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it for that kind of aspect of just like, yeah, this is just ridiculous, and I'm glad that there is just these kind of ridiculous films out there that people are actually putting money into. But yeah, at the same time, it's not gonna win. I don't think it's gonna win any awards. But yeah, solid 6. Yeah, solid 6 for the bravery.
Bravery.
I'm gonna go 6 as well. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. The fight scenes were, I enjoyed the fight scenes. They were good. Kind of carried you through the rest of the story.
The pause said everything.
There's lots of threads untied at the end that I wish they'd kind of spent a bit more time going back to, but good fight scenes. I'm happy with it. It was alright. I won't watch it again, but I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
Cool, great. Okay, that was Kong vs Godzilla. Made no sense, but had some good punch scenes, so can't complain. Our next review most likely going to be Mortal Kombat, so make sure you stick around for that in a week or 2. And the Ben Simpson Company signing off.